So let's try this again. Shakur Stevenson, his upcoming fight with Joe Cordina, a fighter coming off of a loss, will be on DAZN pay-per-view right here in America. Now, listen, I've already broke this news. I don't know what else I got to do. Some people still seem to doubt. I tell you guys, I am the best in the business, and it's not even close. On my channel, we have integrity and we strive for accuracy. So if you guys check my post on social media, you watched the previous video, you would already know this. However, there were some negative Nancy's, the usual suspects, who questioned my integrity and my reporting of the information. So we're back at it with a follow-up video. And I don't duck or dodge nothing. So let's get it. So I put another graphic together because I've already done this. So y'all making me do double work, which I don't really like to do. And it says Shakur Stevenson Cordina will be a DAZN pay-per-view in the United States. My caption reads, as I previously reported, Shakur Stevenson versus Joe Cordina portion of the card and under will be a DAZN pay-per-view in the United States where I live. I live in the United States. This is not a shock. In case you didn't believe me, here is seasoned boxing reporter Dan Rayfield reporting the same thing. And he did it after my content was already published. These are the facts. The hashtag #BetterBeOf Bivol undisputed fight will be aired again in the United States on ESPN Plus. So you will need a subscription for ESPN Plus. Pretty simple to follow, right? And then I said, shout out to all the people who said I was wrong in my reporting or my report was incorrect and I didn't know what I was talking about. And there's no way they would put Shakur Stevenson on pay-per-view. Good job to you guys. You really proved me wrong. LOL, I'm the GOAT, best in the business, and it's not even close. And I will show you. So 424, Dan Rayfield says, there seems to be some confusion, so I'll reiterate. That's because of y'all. It ain't because of me. It's because of y'all. You guys act like you can't understand English when Boxing Ego say it. So now you have a separate boxing reporter and he's saying the same thing. And he says there seems to be confusion regarding Shakur's fight. So I'll reiterate. Or with #BetterBeOf Bivol. The main event will be a one-fight stream in the United States on ESPN Plus with its announcers as part of the subscription. Per Top Rank Boxing, which owns the U.S. rights to the main event. The rest of the event will be on DAZN pay-per-view in the U.S., which is exactly what Boxing Ego previously reported. So now you have someone else who's coming behind me and confirming what I've already told you. Someone says, so #BetterBeOf Bivol main event isn't pay-per-view, just the fights before will be DAZN pay-per-view. Makes a lot of sense. Dan Rayfield replied, only in the United States, everywhere else is one show together. But I don't care about everywhere else because I live in America. So I care about my core audience, my analytics, my demographics. Yes, if you're around the world, much love to you. But Boxing Ego, per YouTube analytics, my core demographic where I get the most views is the United States. And then, you know, I get UK views and in the Philippines and other territories and stuff. But that's why I made the post. Someone says, so the DAZN broadcast will end after Shakur Stevenson. They're not allowed to show the #BetterBeOf versus Bivol fight. In the United States, yes. Everywhere else, DAZN pay-per-view will have the main event. Someone says, gotta thank Bob Arum, the Bob father, for not putting everything on pay-per-view. And Dan Rayfield says, to Top Rank Boxing's credit, they were adamant about this fight not being on pay-per-view, right? This is what you guys were saying. This can't be true. Somebody else said to Boxing Ego, please clear up your reporting, please. If you purchase in DAZN, you see the fight. If you purchase on ESPN Plus, you see the fight. Ain't no way you play to different platforms. So yet again, there were multiple comments because I made and put out my content. See the previous post. I told you guys and explained what was going on, right? I don't understand if you guys understand. I am the best in the business and it's not even close. I get paid to talk boxing. I am elite ego. I am elite at my job. You have people, I have no clue who some of these people are that leave comments and they start telling me about my job and the information that I'm putting out. And it's so funny. Be careful. Like I always say on this internet, be careful where you get your info from. There are a lot of people who want to report boxing, but they're not doing it with integrity. They're rushing out a bunch of videos or trying to do little quick short videos to be first, but people don't care about being right, being accurate. So it's watering down the sport of boxing. You'll have videos being rushed out, but there's no quality control. The audio quality is terrible. I don't even understand how you guys could listen to some of the content that's out. The video quality is terrible, et cetera, et cetera. And then more importantly than the audio and the visuals, the information is bad. Then that's why I said the internet is a tricky place. Then you'll have people who come to my channel. I'm a pro, I'm elite, I've been doing this. They'll say, oh, Ego, you're wrong. So like I said, be advised, bet on us. I'm the best in the business and it's not even close. Back to Shakur Stevenson. I mean, it's like he's set up for failure. Let's be real. This is setting him up for failure. His last 2 fights, at least, people have been bored out of their minds, especially the Edwin De Los Santos fight. He tried to put a little bit more mustard on his shots versus Artem Harutyunyan. But all in all, both of the fights, people were walking out of the Artem fight at home. And then now we come to find out Shakur is basically on DAZN pay-per-view in America, which you have to be real with yourself. This is perhaps one of the dumbest decisions that you could do, especially with the timing. Shakur just became a free agent. So Shakur, I have so much to say because it's just so stupid. Shakur went from Bob Arum in Top Rank, started beefing with Bob Arum in Top Rank. They had at least had you on ESPN Plus, which is easy in America to access. And they had you fighting outside of maybe fighting on that Thursday, but they try to pair you with Grand Prix. It is what it is. They were trying to get you some traffic or whatever. But more often than not, they're putting you on ESPN, which has a lot of households in America, and they're putting you on at more primetime times and time slots in America. People were praising Turkey, Al-Sheikh, and saying, oh, he's the savior. Oh, he's making boxing great again and all this type of stuff. But this is the reality of it. You have an American name who Americans have been following his career for a while. He's going to fight in Saudi Arabia and it's going to come on. It's not like when they're doing these Saudi Kingdom shows, they're not adjusting the time to peak for Americans where boxing is a big market and Shakur is an American fighter. They're doing it at whatever time is convenient for them. So if you look at the Saudi shows with Wilder and Zhang and, whatever, Joshua and Ngannou, these fights are coming on at like 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm in California, so my time. So Shakur Stevenson, he left Top Rank and Bob Arum, said he didn't get treated right. I'm sure they're going to pay you, and maybe he likes the paycheck, but you're going to be an American trying to cash in on the bigger fights, the cachet name fights, namely Gervonta Tank Davis. And then they got you fighting at 2 p.m. in Saudi Arabia. And they're making it more inconvenient for American fans because now for a crap fight, Shakur is coming into the fight undefeated. His opponent just lost in a lighter division and is not a known commodity and big brand right here in America. And they're putting that on pay-per-view. Now, again, this is not hard. Hopefully I've explained it well for you guys, but some people are trying to overcomplicate this. Like, oh, I don't get it. It's very easy to get. And I told you in my previous video, Bob Arum has a unified champion in Beterbiev. That's the fight people want to see. Bivol versus Beterbiev. When the fight was initially supposed to happen in June, Beterbiev got injured. The deal was the same thing. So I knew it probably wouldn't change because the only thing that changed is the injury and they pushed it back. Shakur wasn't with Turkey and Eddie Hearn at that time, at that given moment. So it looks like the same deal carried over. It was supposed to be Wilder and Zhang, and that made more sense, I guess, to try to charge that heavyweight fight as a pay-per-view. Now they got a UK heavy, undercard, Ben Whitaker and Chris Eubank Jr., and maybe some names that would appeal to more so UK fans like Sky Nicholson from Australia. And then you put Shakur Stevenson versus a UK guy at the top of the card, and then you try to package it and sell it to Americans, and now you slap a pay-per-view price tag on it. It's like they truly want Shakur Stevenson to fail. This is going double wood. It might even go double plastic. Who wants to see Shakur Cordina in general, let alone now you got to pay pay-per-view? For me in America, and I'm an American business, I have ESPN Plus. It's a reasonable price. Top Rank got all their shows on there. They got a good catalog of like archive fights. So I just have the subscription, right? It's not that expensive, $11 a month or whatever it is, right? No biggie. Here's the kicker. You mean to tell me as an ESPN subscriber, and if you don't subscribe, use my link in the description to get ESPN Plus. But you mean to tell me the best fight on the card for Americans happens to be the fight that is at the very least cheaper? Because if you don't have an ESPN Plus membership, it doesn't really take much to get it, and it's not that expensive. It's much cheaper than buying a pay-per-view, right? So this is by far one of the most bizarre, boneheaded decisions in recent boxing history. To split it up like this, I understand the deal is a deal. Some people are still confused or saying they're confused. There's nothing confusing about it. The reality is Bob has the unified champion, and he worked out a deal because that's the fight that's drawing the interest. The undisputed fight with Bivol and Beterbiev, and they have it in writing that Top Rank is the U.S. broadcaster for that. It's that simple. Top Rank has an exclusive deal with ESPN. Why would they give that fight to DAZN, which is what I said in my last video? It's a business. Bob Arum has his own partners, ESPN, Disney Plus, owned by Disney. He has them to impress. He has to provide for them. So if he has a good fight, why would he want to give that and then say, hey, DAZN, you take care of everything? And then what does Top Rank do? Furthermore, it doesn't make sense from a business perspective. There are people who are picking Bivol to beat Beterbiev. So your fighter's taking a risk, risking all his titles, risking his 100% knockout ratio, risking his undefeated record. And why wouldn't you have access to that? And that's the best fight. Literally, another reason why this is so stupid and it's so brainless is it just listen, it would be like going to a restaurant and then they have some weak appetizers that you really don't want, and they're price gouging you for the appetizers, but then the actual meal, which is steak and lobster with loaded mashed potatoes and broccolini, right? That has some kind of savings where it's like, oh, you could get that meal, which is the main course, and you can get it at a discounted price, but then you got to pay these absorbent prices for the appetizer. It just wouldn't make sense. If you look at any restaurant's menu, the items that you think would cost more money, right? Like seafood. If you get lobster, like I'm talking about a nice restaurant or a steakhouse, if you go and get prime rib, that's going to cost more than the spinach dip, spinach and artichoke dip. If you get king crab, it's going to cost more because it costs the company more. So who's putting this together? It's almost like they want Shakur to fail because this is bad. Again, you have a UK centric undercard from Shakur down. Actually, I'll show you guys the undercard so you can see what I'm talking about as I say it. So we'll exclude this fight, which is on Top Rank. I've already went over Beterbiev and Bivol. So underneath you have a card consisting of Shakur versus Joe Glass from the UK, a UK fighter, Chris Eubank Jr., Camille Says Meta, a guy Triple G been beat. This is a UK fight. Fabio Wardley versus Fraser Clark, Jai Opataya and Jack Macy, more UK action. Ben Whitaker and Liam, more UK action. And then Sky Nicholson from Australia signed to a British promoter, and Raven Chapman. I don't even know where she's from because I don't even really know her. She might, if I had to take a guess, it's probably from the UK, but don't quote me on that. Then you have, I don't even know who this is. Who is that? Jeff Goldblum's son or whatever. Mohamed Alakel and Jesus Gonzalez. This is DAZN pay-per-view. So from that bottom fight to Shakur, and you're putting that on DAZN pay-per-view. Again, this is a sham. Here's why. Because it's a UK-centric card. So sell that. Why isn't it pay-per-view for the UK people? In the UK, they get all of the fights, and it includes Beterbiev Bivol. But because Top Rank worked out this deal, they get the broadcast rights in the US for the best fight, which is the undisputed fight. And then Bob Arum was probably like, we don't care about none of this. We just want the ratings for the steak and potatoes fight that everyone wants to see. So shout out to Bob Arum. Terrence Crawford, I lost a lot. Shakur Stevenson, he's not like Gervonta. He doesn't sell like his boy Crawford, right? This is bizarre. This is stupid, and this is peculiar. Sell this junk to the UK. You have a UK centric card, and you're slapping a DAZN pay-per-view, which when they first came out, they said there wouldn't be no pay-per-view, but that's a whole nother subject. And you're slapping a DAZN pay-per-view price point on it, and these aren't the fights that Americans are asking for at all. And then the fight that Americans would want to see, we could just watch that with Bob Arum and ESPN and Top Rank. So this is bound to fail. This is destitute for failure. Trust me on it. Trust me on this one. This is bound to fail because, again, UK-centric undercard with a bunch of guys that aren't branded in America, and then Americans are the ones that got to pay DAZN pay-per-view for it. It don't make sense. Plus, I've already told you, imagine being an American such as myself. Even if I was a banker and I worked 9 to 5 hours, right? I still wouldn't be able to be at home for this fight because 9 to 5, this fight, Shakur and below, is going to be on like 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. and then the main event. So this is not prime time. So why on earth would Americans, or would you think Americans were going to buy this fight with Shakur when Americans didn't even like his last two fights and they don't even know who he's fighting? Some UK guy coming off of a loss and a UK guy being stopped moving up in weight. I mean, this is just is pointless. So look at the usual suspects. They don't notice when it comes to Shakur, they're talking about Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis, none of his cards look like this. But the usual suspects, they're trying to distract you with Gervonta Davis talk. Gervonta Davis had David Benavidez on his undercard, right? In the past, he's had guys like Mario Barrios on his undercard, right? Tank Davis's undercards never look like this. So you see the usual suspects complain about PBC. Why is Tank fighting X, Y, and Z? Why is it pay-per-view? All of those fights you can even think, oh, why is Canelo fighting Edgar Berlanga? Berlanga, that card has Danny Garcia, Edislandi Lara, Rolly on the undercard, Caleb Plant on the undercard. So that's more of an American product that people would want to watch in branded name. Caleb Plant, a known brand. Rolly, a known brand, who fought Tank, who fought Pitbull, right? And it's funny because the usual suspects, because they have an agenda against PBC, they're talking about PBC and Tank and why is Canelo fighting Berlanga? And then in the same breath, they're saying Turkey is saving boxing, but Americans can get the fight we want to see through Top Rank for much cheaper. And then you have the audacity to charge us DAZN pay-per-view for this, which I'm scrolling through right now. It just makes no sense. Shout out to Bob Arum. You could tell he's been in the game for a while and he's polished, because this is a great deal for him. Another thing is, I would be remiss if I didn't add this. The funny thing is, Shakur, and I told you this is a bad look, he started kind of burning bridges with Top Rank and talking bad about Top Rank, and to each his own. That's how he felt. He did it. But in doing that, now Bob Arum really owes you nothing, and he's looking at you like ops. Now this move is kind of like a power move, because it's like, we don't care about Shakur versus Joe Cordina and down. We just want the main event. And we basically, in America, we want the fight that's going to count. And we'd rather just get the viewership and credit on ESPN Plus for the Undisputed fight, which I truly think Undisputed with Beterbiev Bivol will turn out to be a good fight. So basically, people are saying they're confused. It's not confusing. It's just stupid. Don't confuse confusion with stupidity. What I'm saying to you is not confusing at all. Shakur versus Joe Cordina down is DAZN pay-per-view in the States, in America. Then you would have to switch to ESPN Plus and either open an ESPN Plus account and pay the monthly membership for that month, or you already have one, you log in, switch over, you'll get to watch the Undisputed fight. And again, I've already said that you guys are saying Turkey and Riyadh season is saving boxing. This is super inconvenient. Let's forget about the UK undercard, UK eccentric undercard, and all the other things that I brought up in this video. And let's just talk about the mere fact that that's just inconvenient. Who wants to watch 5-6 fights and then have to switch to another platform? That's not convenient. But you guys were the one that hoisted up Eddie Hearn and said Shakur signed into Matchroom and Turkey was the savior of boxing. And to be frank, I'm not understanding the vision, because I don't see how this helps Shakur Stevenson grow. Again, you're off of bad performances that the public didn't like. Then he screams Tank's name, runs over to Eddie Hearn in Turkey, and then they got you fighting on a pay-per-view in America at a weird time for Americans, like 2 p.m. during an election year. And you think this is somehow going to enhance Shakur's profile? And then to top that all off, we don't even want to see you fight the guy you're fighting. Like, we don't even like the opponent by and large. So this is all over the place. This is a complete, utter mess. And you guys are seeing it. Turkey came out, Riyadh season came out with Crawford Madrimov. They said it lost $10 million. The UFC fight in the Vegas Sphere, Riyadh season, they're saying it's losing money, and they're slashing the ticket prices because it wasn't affordable. To get in the building for the UFC Noche Spear fight, it was $3,000 plus for the cheapest ticket in nosebleed. What Americans can pay, the average American ain't paying $3,000 for one ticket, right? Not with gas prices, groceries, and again during the election year. So it's really starting to look like a lot of the people that you guys hoisted up and praised do not know what they are doing in America, and it's not effective. Bob Arum, say what you want about him, but he knows the American market, and he knows it to the point where his deal makes sense for his brand. We just want the Bivol fight with Beterbiev. That's for all the marbles. I'll have my commentary crew call it. Y'all can do whatever you want with Shakur, Cordina, and down. We not tripping. We just want viewership for the most impactful fight. I mean, I don't even, it's like almost, I don't really get at a loss for words, but it's so stupid that it just seems like, who's thinking this? DAZN could literally cash me out. Now, I'm not going to say my figure, but they could cash me out, and I guarantee you I can brainstorm better ideas that make more sense with branding, and the execution of it would make more sense than just wasting money for things that are obviously not going to work. You're going to tax Americans on a fight card that is not even geared towards Americans. Like, do you understand how crazy that sounds? You got Shakur fighting a non-American that most boxing fans in America do not know. And same with the undercard. Ain't nobody Americans were requesting Chris Eubank versus, it's not even like Chris Eubank versus Conor Benn rescheduled. It's Chris Eubank versus Camille Says Meta, a guy with no pop and no power. And that's the same thing with Shakur Stevenson, right? You got Shakur Stevenson, that's likely probably a decision fight, you know, unless he's so banged up from losing already. Like, look, Chris Eubank is fighting this guy 25-2 with 8 knockouts, and he's been stopped twice, once by Golovkin. And this is who Chris Eubank is fighting. So he's fighting a guy who fought in February of this year, and he's coming off a draw. You see what I'm saying? He's coming off a draw. And then Munguia beat him up in 2021. These aren't compelling fights. And it's embarrassing that this is what you're trying to sell to Americans. And then you got Turkey, who was saying stuff like, Canelo should take my offer if he knows what's best for him. And he was saying stuff like, I'm going to eat Canelo with the UFC card, UFC 306. And this is the brain power that you're seeing with as far as the planning. This is not a way to make Shakur a star. I promise you that. Let me know what you guys think. I had to correct it because you guys said I was lying, and I came back with a vengeance.